Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Joanne Lenz, and I'm so excited that we have an hour to take care of this whole reading issue. So I'm going to pop right in and I'm going to get going. And I hope you've been having a great day listening to the speakers. I've been having a wonderful time listening to Jan Hasbrook and everybody else. If you guys want to get a hold of me, just take a snapshot of this. And if you want, what I'm going to do is stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to go over to the chat box and I am going to upload my PowerPoint if you want a copy of the PowerPoint. All right, so where did it go? Nope, hold on a minute, sorry. Here you go. Here is, it's going to be uploading right now. So let's just go back and we'll get going. All right, so welcome everybody. So we're going to talk about and really just sort of bring together everything that we've been hearing today from all the amazing educators that we've been listening to and researchers. So what we're going to talk a little bit about today really is just a smidge of the science of reading. We're definitely going to talk about the paradigm, the content, and the principles of structured literacy. And then we're going to talk about what instruction looks like in a structured literacy sequence. And I'm going to be showing you that in a program called Spire and Sound Sensible. So basically, one thing that I just want to say about, I'm going to just move this over here, you know, the science of reading, it's not an ideology, it's not a one size fits all. It really is a amazing, a conglomeration of a consensus from amazing sciences, from cognition, psychology, education, neuroscience, reading specialists, you know, psychologists, social workers, because you cannot tease out the social emotional component to learning. And you've heard that discussed in a lot of the sessions. You know, a lot of the kids are really bummed out and they know they're having a hard time. And somebody said earlier, well, how do we get our kids motivated? I'm going to tell you how. Get them some success. So we'll bring in a program where they can be successful, and we'll talk about the transfer over into regular academics. And so what we're going to really talk about today is what is structured literacy. And I always crack up when I read the first thing. It says, put simply. I get very thrown off by this put simply. Because what it is saying to you is that structured literacy is explicit, meaning we take nothing for granted. Everything is discussed. If they know it, we move on. It's systematic. We run a very quick, it's called the initial placement assessment. So you find out where the strength is, where the glitch, and you place the student where they place, and then you follow it in systematic teaching. And we have to work on phonological awareness, which we've been hearing so much about, the ability to manipulate sounds without print, which is a precursory skill for reading success. And a lot of us are just not comfy with it, and it's not embedded in a lot of programs, but you know, there's a lot of talk about it now, so we're really hearing about that. And so what I would like to talk to you a little bit, and I took this from the International Dyslexia overview, and I could also put that in the chat box so you can get the outline. So basically, the content of structured literacy is phonology. And what phonology is, it's the ability to manipulate the sounds of language without print. And again, you know, other programs, so if I say combat, can your student put those two syllables together? And if, you know, you ever say with students, let's start something fun, let's do some rhyme. And you go mat, fat, sat, and the kid goes dinosaur. And you're like, oh, okay. And then everyone leans in and you go mat, fat, sat, and this kid goes giraffe. And so what you're hearing is, and you're observing is, they may be having a hard time hearing that onset and that rhyme. And then we're going to go over to the direct and explicit study of phonics, which is sound to symbol. So if I hear I know that's an M. If I see the letter M, I know that is a that you can do it in both positions. Then we're going to start talking about syllable instruction. What makes a vowel short? Why is that vowel long? When do we know to decode? And orthography, we want to teach students how to find the patterns embedded in words. And then we're going to talk about something so profound, morphology. You know, prefixes, suffixes, Latin and Greek roots. And it really should say Latin, then Greek roots, because believe it or not, Latin roots make up about 60% of the English language. And if you're working with students, fourth grade and above, feel free to email me and I'll send you some great work on structural analysis. But again, it is unbelievably helpful. Syntax, grammar, sentence structure, the mechanics of putting a sentence together, a paragraph together. Semantics, comprehension, vocabulary, writing. And the design of any good structured literacy program is it must be direct, explicit, systematic, cumulative, mastery-based instruction. It's not a little this and a little of that. And I've had the pleasure of watching the presentations today, and we're all doing the same stuff, and it's wonderful. It's just finding the correct program for the brain that is sitting in front of you. That's what it's all about. So, and one thing I just want you to realize, semantics is print-based, syntax is print-based, morphology, excuse me, is print-based, sound symbol is print-based, phonology is the brain's ability to hear those sounds, and we're going to talk about how that step has been built throughout the SPIRE program. If you have not had the opportunity to see this article, it's called Teaching Reading is Rocket Science. It came out, I believe, initially in 1999. They have updated it. This is a brilliant article put out by the American Federation of Teachers, and it will lay out the absolute science of reading and what needs to be done for all students to become proficient readers. And one thing I just want to say, it's free. So please feel free, go download it. It's a brilliant article. Just make sure you have the newest one, 2020. The first thing I want to talk a little bit about is the simple view of reading. And again, don't get tripped up by the word simple. But what I have over here is RC. That's reading comprehension. I get phone calls from schools all the time. Hey, my kids, they can't read and comprehend. They're having difficulty. And I go, so how is their phonics? How is their decoding? How is their encoding, which is spelling? And they're like, oh, we think it's fine. But the thing is, when we look at the simple view of reading, there are two components that lead to the ability to have print-based reading comprehension. You must have all your decoding down. You must know your sounds. You must know your syllables. You must know your prefixes. You have to know how to blend it. You have to work on that automaticity. And it's times, not plus. Then linguistic comprehension, really building that oral language skill, multiple definitions of words, which is so important. And the thing is, when you look at the simple view of reading, you look at decoding times linguistic comprehension will equal comprehension, reading comprehension. Print-based. But if you have strong decoding skills, but you're lacking background knowledge and you don't know the vocabulary and maybe your phrasing isn't appropriate, or you're just not getting the right rhythm in what you're reading, you probably are going to have difficulties pulling out the text, because I can know how to go at, but that is not going to allow me to read and comprehend because I'm too busy figuring out every sound. So let's say you have a student that has very weak decoding skills, but you have a student that has fantastic listening comprehension skills. I have tons of these kids. You have students that they could tell you everything about the metamorphosis of a butterfly, but if I put the cat sat on the mat in front of them, they can't read it. So one thing I just want you to hold on to, being able to read, I love the term simple. It is an amalgam of skills. And I want to show you the Scarborough slide. When you look at the many strands that are woven into reading, the first one is that you must have decoding. Sorry, let me go back. You must have your decoding, phonological awareness, the ability to hear those sounds without print. In the SPIRE and the Sound Sensible program, phonemic and phonological awareness is built throughout various steps, and I'm going to model most of that for you. And then we get into the direct and explicit science of teaching the alphabetic code. And you know what? We're lucky. There's only 26 letters and there's only 44 sounds. I'm telling you, this is manageable. The thing is, we just have to get comfortable with the craft of presenting it. So, and again, in order to be able to get to reading comprehension, we must be fluid with our word recognition, but we must have background knowledge. We need to know depth and breadth of vocabulary. We have to understand syntactical and semantics, which is also another word for vocabulary. And then, verbal reasoning, inferencing, and metaphor. So the really amazing thing is, this is what everybody wants. Everybody wants reading comprehension, but in order, look at the tightening of those strands to be able to be a fluent and accurate reader with reading comprehension, because that is the ultimate goal, not just kicking out words. We have to have fluency with the lowest level of language acquisition. And the most important thing is, it's not about just learning the sound of SH. It's not just about learning the sound of A. It's about how all those skills are interconnected so that we get those students to read. And in the Spire program, you have two types of lessons where you learn a skill and then you go right into a decodable text that is reinforcing the skill that you've learned, and we work on reading comprehension. I found this slide a couple of years ago and I loved it. Let me just go back for a second. I'm just trying to move this out of the way. All right, perfect. So I love this. The use of effective interventions without implementation strategies is like serum without a syringe. And the cure is available, but the delivery system is not. And I swear I found this years ago. But the thing is we have to plan, we have to do, and we have to check, meaning we always have to use our diagnostic and prescriptive eye. I am not saying making a diagnosis. I'm just saying, let's look at where's the error. Is it a beginning sound problem? Is it an ending sound problem? Is it a vowel problem? Looking discreetly at the strength and at the glitch. The really cool thing about learning is that the brain is wireable. So we are never too old to learn. And that's the most exciting thing. And so again, the principles of, neuroplasticity, getting the brain to overcome its hiccup on not hearing we need to use visual, auditory, kinesthetic, which is muscle movement, and tactile. And I'm watching everyone's beautiful presentations, and we're all talking about the same amazing tools. The thing is, we must have optimal attention, meaning explicit instruction. When we look at the Spire and the Sound Sensible program, it is broken up into manageable sections, and I'm going to explain how that is laid out. And then we do consistent and correct input. The brain is magical. It does not know what is right and what is wrong. Whatever it repetitively does, it is chipping a neural pathway. So let's not put it incorrect. Let's get it in there correctly. And the whole thing, it's about intensity. It's about saliency. It's about frequency. And so the most important thing, that old saying, practice makes perfect. Well, there's no such thing as perfect. Nobody looks like that. That's called Photoshop. I'm a photographer. But repetitive, correct practice creates new neural pathways. And I think if we've been watching what everyone has been discussing today, this is the overarching discussion about explicit instruction. So the Spire program is written by Sheila Clark Edmonds, who is an Orton Gillingham Fellow, and it is a structured, individualized program. And I'm going to show you how there is a down and dirty, very fast screener to let you know where to place your students. And then we get going into a consistent 10-step lesson plan. And then we have mastery measures, mastery of concepts that we administer after our first reinforcement lesson. And if our students are at 80 or better percent mastery, we'll move on. And so again, I just would love for you to take a look at this, and I'm going to go through this with you. So step number one is print. We introduce sounds, we do all of our phonogram cards, and this is going to be introduction of an SH lesson. So this is print-based. That is 5 minutes. Step number two is phonological awareness. No print, working on the brain's ability. Because we're working on SH, we will train the brain to hear the sound of sh. And then that is only 5 minutes. And then the next 5 minutes, what I love is when, Jan Hasbrook and everyone's been talking about orthography. The research shows you can be a great reader, but not a fabulous speller. But if you understand the orthographic underpinnings, the patterns, how words and sounds and letters are put together, you have a 10,000 better chance of being able to break that down. And so in the first 15 minutes, excuse me, we review individual phonograms. We introduce a new concept, 5 minutes. Step 2, 5 minutes. We play with sound retrieval without print. And then step number 3, we then go from the phoneme, which is the sound, to the grapheme, which will marry and map that sound onto that letter. Step number 4 is where we teach kids how to code words. I'm sure you're using other programs. We all start with underlining the vowel because the vowel is the most important letter in that word. It indicates how many syllables we have, if it has a sound. And the short vowel sounds, can create a lot of havoc for some of our students. And so the 5th step is only 5 minutes. We're just reviewing it. And in step number 6, it's really cool. And I'm going to show you the difference there. This is where you're going to see you've got 15 minutes. In an introductory lesson, we're going to use something called a word find sheet. And students are going to look and they're going to practice that skill. In a reinforcement lesson, they're going to take whatever skill they have learned. Let's say it's EA, let's say it's SH. They will then read an SH story and they will fill out graphic organizers learning about author's intent and purpose. And then in steps 7, 9, and 10, 8, I'll explain in a second, we are doing dictation. We are doing sound dictation. We are doing word dictation. And we are doing sentence dictation. Look, this is a very fast overview. What I would love to do is just dive in a little bit and show you some of these skills. So when you look at how to teach structured literacy instruction, it's always language-based. So we as educators, paras, whomever that is doing it, we must be proficient with our sound production. It's always multisensory. Visual and auditory are great, but if I want to learn something, I write it down. It's structured, it follows a sequence, it's sequential, it's cumulative, and it's flexible. The one really important thing about a Sound Sensible and Aspire lesson is it is a fully immersive language instruction. So if you go back to that simple view of reading, not only must you be proficient in decoding, you must have really good listening comprehension. And you know what? Listening is a very adult skill. And so the problem is we think we're explaining everything clearly and cleanly. And a lot of times the students go, I don't understand the words he or she is using. And sometimes I think I've boiled it down to the simplest, but I always have to just reflect and ask my students, is this making sense? And if they say no, I have to come up with another way to do that. But lessons are totally language-based and all the lessons are multisensory. And you were seeing it in the reading rescue, they were using sand and boards, everyone's moving and touching. Because when you're moving and touching, you're focused and you can get the job done. The really cool thing about the English language is it's manageable. A lot of people say it's not. It actually is. The English language is actually 84% rule-based. We only have 44 sounds. There are only 26 letters. The issue is spelling can be a little bit of a problem because my phoneme here is simply long A. I have A as in acorn, A as in lake, A as in aim, A as in day, A as in eight, A as in straight, thank the French, EI as in vain, and then you have 2 irregulars. And I make, unless you're not used to teaching this way, you just don't think about this stuff. These words just come out of your mouth. They just come out of your pen. And this is what we are going to be teaching our students. Remember, phonemes are sound, letters are print, graphemes are print. You cannot take away that ability to increase the phonological awareness if we want to get accurate, fluent, and students that enjoy reading because it's such a pleasure. So when we look at how Spire is laid out, it is a direct and explicit mastery-based instruction program. And basically, the whole thing is going to come up. We have direct and explicit in phonics and phonology, no print. Okay, then we have decoding. Decoding is learning letters, learning words, learning sounds. If you see AIGH, that says A, that would be orthography, the patterns embedded in words. Vocabulary is morphology. It can be Anglo-Saxon, your easier words, but it could be Latin and Greek, and Latin starts at high second grade. And so if you're interested in anything on structural analysis, please feel free to email me and I'll just send you a little bit out on that. And reading comprehension is all about syntax and semantics, but if you don't have these earlier skills and you're not fluent, I'm not interested in how fast you read it. I need for you to be accurate, because we all use different types of reading speed depending on the type of literature we're reading. And so what I just want you to think about, the whole program following the intent of structured literacy is all direct and explicit instruction that starts from the bottom up and builds from the phoneme and ends with a sentence. You know, when you're looking at the many strands of the Scarborough rope, this is what we want. So we need to take these skills, tighten them together through correct, repetitive, overlearned practice so that we can free up the reading brain so that we can get the student where the student needs to be to comprehend what they're reading. And just remember, the most important thing is it's all about the interconnectedness of all the prerequisite skills. I can have brilliant listening comprehension, but my reading comprehension might be poor because I am lacking in some of these skills. And I know a lot of you guys say that. I've got this very bright kid. I just can't get them into reading. So talk about getting, accommodations, but also teach your students how to read, because we live in a literacy-driven society and we all must be literate and comfortable with it. So the one thing I just want to let you know, Spire now comes in two formats. You can get a print format, or you can get something called iSpire. And that is basically the exact same teaching protocol with some of the tools on the iPad. And I will give you the name of Teresa Gilstrap at the end of this. If you're interested in finding out about any product, please feel free to reach out to her. Just as is, everything is laid out for you. Teachers don't need to write curriculum. They need time to teach it. Teachers will present. If they're using print, all of this comes in a kit. And then these are the materials your student will look at. And, for you guys that are so well trained in other teaching methodologies, we're all doing the same thing. But the one thing that might be missing in a lot of other programs is really intended overuse of phonological and being able to hear those sounds. But programs are amazing that are out there. All right. And so the one thing I just want to let you know, there are 8 levels in the print Spire. There are only 6 levels in the iSpire digital. There is an IPA. It's called an initial placement assessment. The one thing I really want you to hold on to, the Spire program is not a kindergarten program. Because the assumption is that your students know the letter names, they know the letter sounds, and that they're able to write them. We're not going to make the assumption. We're going to run a down and dirty little assessment. But let's say you have a student that does not successfully navigate this test. One thing I just want you to take a look at, the first part of the test is the student says the name of the letter and gives you the sound. We don't go P, pat, P. We just go P, P. If the student says P, P, we will write down that student's adding a schwa, but we will not penalize them for that. We will teach them that. So one thing I just want you to realize, this is the quick version. You can download it for free at the www.epsbooks.com. It is there for you to use, and it is administered one-to-one. So let's say you have a student that does not successfully navigate Form A. They don't know their names, the letter names. They don't know their letter sounds. We happen to have a precursory program called Sound Sensible, which can be used at all 3 tiers of instruction. It can be used at your tier 1 as prevention, pre-K and K. You could use it as intervention, and you can use it as intervention and remediation. But as we're going to keep hearing throughout this conference, if we get our students pre-K and K, and we get their brains sensitive to hear those sounds, we are going to improve their ability to break words down, put them back together, and then read with fluency. And we will work on that. The one thing I just want to show you, we talk about phonological awareness, and phonological awareness is the umbrella term. And just remember, it's with no print. It's being able to segment sentences, tap out words, break words from onset and rhyme, at, at. And the thing is, phonemic awareness is a very small, discrete skill. So if I say to the student, the word is catch, show me what you know. If they can go k, a, ch, then they have that phonemic awareness. So remember, this is the larger picture. This is the most discrete, and the students need both of these skills. Now, Sound Sensible Lessons, if you're not ready to jump into the Spire program, is broken up into 5 steps. First, you have a listening step, and that is all orally done. Then you work on rhyming for 9 minutes. And again, this is an oral exercise. Then we get into segmentation, starting with sentences, compound words, multisyllabic words, onset and rhyme, and then ending at the top of the mountaintop with hearing phonemes, which is the most discrete, sophisticated thing the brain can do for our students who are struggling. And this is still sound produced. And so we are training children to listen, to rhyme, to segment. And then we go right into teaching the letter name, the letter sound, and how to write that letter. And then we go right into dictation to see what our students can give back to us. This is a fully equipped program. Everything is there for you, and it meets the absolute structure of structured literacy, because it is working in dealing and helping students to understand the sound symbol relationship. So let's spend some time with Spire. Spire is a first grade through 99 year of age. I work a lot with adults and adolescents. And just remember, reading difficulties is not age specific, it's skill specific. So the one thing I just want to show you is the 10-step lesson plan is made up of 2 lessons that must be run. First, you have an introductory lesson. And the introductory lesson reviews all the individual phonemes and then introduces a new concept. And then we go through at least 40 multisensory exposures to that new concept. And it's all built into a scripted lesson plan that is easy to follow. You don't have to follow the scripting verbatim, but you really have to, in the beginning, look at it, understand it, and get your students to do the interaction back and forth with you. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit. So you must teach an intro, and you must teach a reinforcement. And a reinforcement lesson is I think, the amazing component of this program. Here we're teaching sounds. We're teaching sounds to automaticity. We're teaching sounds for recognition. We're teaching how to spell the sound, how to spell the word, how to write a sentence. But when we get into the reinforcement lesson, it reviews the new sounds you have learned, but recursively reviews all the previously learned skills. So as in any good multisensory language-based program, when you learn a skill, you don't tie it in a little box and put it away. Once you learn it, it is now practiced with and played with, and it is embedded as we move along. And sight word introduction and review, and then we get into decodable words, and we do that with a review, and then we get into text. And again, this is phonetically loaded text because we are working with students at a tier 2 level, but we want them to be able to integrate the skill of here. It's all about the interconnectedness of the prerequisite skills. So if I've learned those sounds previously, I've mastered them, but now I need to put it into a written and a reading format, because that's what we want. We need to get our kids over to reading with accuracy, fluency, and prosody. And again, I really appreciate what Jan Hasbrook said today, because I've always been a proponent, because before it was fluency, your speed, and accuracy. I have always said when I do my training, everyone reads at different rates. I need for our students to be accurate. I know when I'm reading, I need to be accurate. So I just want to show you a little bit about the 10 steps. So in step 1, you're going to have phonogram cards. And again, it's just like anyone else. In our program, our vowels are red, our vowels are green, our consonants are white. Other programs use different color coding, but everyone accentuates the vowel. And so in step number 1, which is a 5-minute step, we review all our phonological phonemes, and then we introduce a new concept. So we will be teaching the sound of SH. And then I'm just showing you. So here in a print base, this is what it would look like. If you're working on iSpire or the STAR method, it would be the exact same teaching protocol. This program over here is not a standalone, hook your kids up, walk away. This is still teacher interactive, and it's absolutely lovely. Normally, when we go to schools, we normally train everyone in print first so they understand the underpinnings of teaching, and then we take them into the digital format. The second thing I just want to say, step number 2, phonological awareness. And again, just a brief review, the ability to notice, think about, manipulate words and word parts or sounds. And the most important thing is that the best indicator of or predictor of reading difficulty in kindergarten or first grade is the inability or difficulty. I don't like the word inability because it means they're not doing it at all, but you can have students that are trying, but it's just not getting them where they need to go, to segment words and syllables into its constituent sound units. And that is all built into both of the programs, Sound Sensible and Spire. And what I want to talk a little bit about, David Kilpatrick, and again, everyone has always talked about phonemic awareness being without print. We know we can do all of that work, but there is also research that is showing that phonemic awareness could be taught along with phonics, and I'm going to show you how we integrate that in Spire. So in our step 2, we're doing something called phoneme segmentation. And a phoneme is a single unit of sound. And in our program, white tiles represent consonants and green tiles represent vowels. So we're going to ask our students, one thing I just want you to know, your students are not seeing these words. I just have this up here for you. And if you want to do it with me, let's play a little bit. So I'm going to say the word hot. Everyone say the word hot back to me. And then we would count out the sounds. Ah, and we'd ask the students, how many sounds? So we would say, what's the first sound? And the kid goes, I don't know. And so you could just go, at. You can just break that off. And then we move down a white tile and we say, and we'll always say, ah. We move down the green tile, then say hot, and we ask, what is that last sound? And a lot of times students have a very hard time. So you can say, what's that last sound? You can stretch it out, and it's t, and we pull that down. And believe it or not, you're already beginning to lay down spelling patterns, because if your students honestly understand this is a consonant and this is a vowel and this is a consonant, we are starting to layer in how we spell. And then we start working on playing with changing sounds. So if we say hot, then we say hit, and then we go it, and we change out our vowel, our ah to our eh. So we're actually teaching students to manipulate medial sounds, beginning sounds, ending sounds. And this is only 5 minutes. And so we have done that sound, we go right into it, then and I want to show you something really cool. In level 2, remember there are 8 levels in the print, there are 6 levels in the digital. But here we're still doing phoneme segmentation, but I'm going to show you how it's a little bit adapted, because here we're working on the floss rule, the double F, the double L, the double S. So everyone say the word hill. We go eh, so we're always working on those sounds. And then we ask kids to put a dash for each sound. And this is really helpful. And then we say the first sound is kids pull down a green tile. You know, they're not realizing that's a vowel. You'll have to go back. Say you pull it down, you say ooh, and then we would say at the end of a single syllable word, when we hear ooh, it's one sound, but it's spelled with a double L. And this is not done in level 1, but we start integrating a little bit of print with our phonological awareness when we move into more sophisticated skills. In our program, LL is considered an irregular, so it's yellow. In other programs, these cards are green. It doesn't matter. Everyone is looking at the floss rule the same way. And again, so let me just show you another way to do this. Everyone say the word off, and we go ah, and then I have them dash it out, and then we say ah, and then I ask them to pull down the tile that represents that sound. This is a phenomenal tool. Do this with all your kids. This is going to really start building that connection, mapping the sound onto the letter. Now we're up to step 3. And again, this is within 15 minutes. We've done sounds, review, introduced a new concept, trained the brain to hear that sound, and now we're going to go right to mapping the phoneme onto the grapheme. And so here are your 2 versions. You can have a magnetic letter tile board. There's a magnetic letter tile board in the iSpire. And I just want a fast review. You know, what is the difference between phonemic awareness? Phonemic awareness, no print. Phonics is all print-based. But if you don't have this, it is very hard. If you don't hear the sound of and it's very hard to map that sound onto it. So I just want to do something fun with you. Say the word ship. Now watch me. So even in our word building step, we still do phonemic awareness. So everyone say ship. We go sh, p, and we ask how many sounds are in that word. And the student would say 3. So we go ship. What's your first sound? They pull the SH. We say ip or I. What letter sends that? And say ship. What letter represents that sound? We put our finger underneath it. We blend sh, I, p, and ship. So the really nice thing about this is you are taking your steps 1 and 2 and you're folding it in, the interconnectedness. So let's say we're doing the word shop. It would be the same thing. Shop. And we pull down those tiles and we scoop and we read. And so again, you have the beauty of still working on phonemic awareness, but cementing it right to its letter sounds. I want to show you something. And again, I know I keep saying this, it's all, and you're going to hear this all throughout the summit, all throughout all the conference. It's all about interconnectedness. Knowing the sound of sh is not going to allow you to read a book. So we need to learn those sounds, and then we need to bring it over to text, and text is going to be in our reinforcement lesson. I want to show you something really cool. This chart does not show up until level 2, but I just want to show you, this chart says phoneme grapheme sheet. So we're going from sound to letter. This would be your step 3. So from level 2 and on, you will see this in step 3. Sometimes you'll be building on your magnetic letter tile board, and sometimes you'll be doing this. And I know I sound like a nerd, but this thing just really made me happy. You're going to be very sick of the word ship by the end of the day, but everyone say ship. So we go sh, p. We say how many sounds are in that, and then we move the correct tiles, making those sounds. And now we do something called simultaneous oral spelling, where we say the name of the letter, then we write SH, I, and P, and then we read that word. So again, we're always still working on the phonemic awareness, but now we're immediately marrying it to the sound. So everyone say the word, I just want to see which word this is. Everyone say the word shock. So let's say we're further on in our lessons and we're learning about the consonant digraph or the consonant team, CK, at the end of the word. Again, we do the same thing. Even though it's print-based, we still do phonemic awareness. We go sh, ah, k. We ask our students, how many sounds do you hear? Hopefully they say 3. They don't, I have my fingers up. We do it again. We go sh, ah, and k. And the reason we use simultaneous oral spelling is because the sound is k, but here we're going to say sh and O and CK. Louisa Moats always says, accentuate the unusual, get a little more, fluid pumping through that brain. As we move into higher lessons in Spire, we start moving into multisyllabic words. This should be blue. I don't know why it turned green on the screen, but each rectangle is representing a syllable. So I'm going to use the word shampoo, and we would just tap it out, shampoo, and the first syllable is sham. And I understand other programs teach am as a welded sound, but if we are teaching sound, if we are blending out sounds, am still has two sounds. So it's fine. Don't worry about all that. Sh, ah, and then we would go sh, ah, and we say poo, and we go p, ooh, and then we bring that down. So we would be working on that diphthong, ooh, and then we say sh, a, m, and p, and o. So this is amazing. So this is one of the amazing paradigms built into this program, that we never leave phonemic awareness, but we always marry it to print after step 2. I know I'm going sort of fast, but I just really want to show you how cool this stuff is. An hour's not a lot of time. And again, it's all about interconnectedness. Most people that are working with Orton Gillingham-based bottom-up teaching methodologies teach kids to look at words and stop guessing and underline the vowel. So in our print book, your students are going to have a worksheet, and on the iPad or their Chromebook, they will have interactive manipulation on the computer. So the skill is identical, the presentation is only the difference. And so the one thing I just want you to know, like a lot of times people say, and I'm going to show you my example, the way we code, other programs code other ways, and that's beautiful, because a lot of people say to me, Joanne, coding's really not authentic. I said, I understand that, but we're stopping the guessing game, and we're teaching kids metacognitive tools, how to look at a word and how to successfully pull it apart and pull it back together again. So the first thing we do is we underline the vowel. And then, because we have taught SH, we say, do we have a consonant team here? And we scoop underneath it. And in step 4, this is how we run it. So if everyone say I, and then we would go sh, p, ship. And then we go to the next one, we say, underline that vowel. Do you see a consonant digraph or a consonant team here? We say, sure do. We say I, What sound does SH make? Shh. And then we say dish. And the thing is, it's all repetitive, correct practice. I had someone said, this is a lot of overkill. Our students need a tremendous amount of reinforcement, and then we can work on fluency. We want to get kids out of this. This is great. If they can hear those sounds, I'm ecstatic, but we need to get them over to the fluency. And when we're working on fluency, you can model I read, you read. And so again, you have so many different opportunities to work on that, the sound, the letter, fluency, teaching the student to look at that vowel as the anchor, to decode, to encode. It's so powerful. And then I just want to show you something really cool. When we get up to step, remember it's a 10-step lesson plan. When we get up to step number 6, because this is the gradual release model where I do, we do, so very rarely do you do, because we're a tier 2 and we are rewiring or wiring the parietal temporal lobe, and we need to get it incorrect, because one thing is, brain is gorgeous, doesn't know what's right, doesn't know what's wrong. Whatever it repetitively does, it is tripping a neural pathway. So we are feeding in the correct information. So we ask the students to look at this list. We pull away our scaffolding a little bit. We ask them to circle it. We ask them to code it. We ask them to read it. We ask them to put an asterisk next to a word that they don't know, but we've already dealt with certain words. And then we have the students read it. One thing I love about this, kids are seeing different fonts. The rest of the world is not Century Gothic font, and we need to see other types of fonts. And then, so in this, I just want you to see is an introductory lesson. The amazing thing is, once we finish our introductory lesson, we are going to go over to working on fluency in the reinforcement lesson. And I took this from Shanahan, and it said, fluency instruction should be presented as a coordinated task requiring readers to integrate, consolidate, and orchestrate all of their skills. And so that goes all the way back to the Scarborough thread, thinking about the simple view of reading. Reading comprehension is not a skill. It's an amalgam of everything that you know. And reading comprehension is endless. Phonics is a finite set of rules. Once you know them, you know them. But then we have to learn how to integrate them, use them, and have fun with it. All right. And so in step number 6, in the intro, we're circling, we're still only working on SH. Then we get into a story. And then we go through a very direct and explicit systematic structure of how to teach that. We read the title. We say to the students, please read the title to yourself. Tell me what you think that might be about. Then we ask them, read the first 2 sentences, and on your iSpire, the 2 sentences are broken up into colors. On this one, I do number the rows because a lot of our students cannot find the 4th and the 5th row. And we say to the students, please read the first 2 sentences. Tell me what was Tim's problem. And so the students read, and you have all these questions. It's not about just kicking out words. The goal is that we become comfortable with the prosody, the accuracy, and the fluency that we can now attend to reading comprehension. And while I get it, this is still decodably loaded, but we are working with a decodably loaded program. But the skills of thinking, asking, looking for prior knowledge, making inferences is a skill that is used throughout every level of text. So it's all built in there. And then when we get done, we read it, we have graphic organizers. So again, what I suggest when we train educators, please take a look at your first reinforcement lesson and look at the skill that the comprehension activity is going to be working on. And in this skill, we're working on drawing conclusions. So I make sure in my introductory lesson, I'm using that language and that my students know what it means to draw a conclusion. A lot of you kids think they're going to get a pencil and start drawing something. But the thing is we want our students to be comfortable. We want them to understand what we're asking. And then again, if you're working with a student in 1st grade, filling out a graphic organizer might not be your best thing. They could give you the answers. They can fill it out. But you can maybe do it with a 5th grader. It's all about implementation, but the most important, beautiful thing is SH needs to be integrated into words, into phrases, into sentences, and then into a story so that we can have our interconnectedness. The goal is to enjoy picking up something and reading it no matter what it is. And the one really cool thing is we have fiction and nonfiction passages. We work on visualization skills and building meaning. We work on drawing of conclusions, cause and effect. And so the beauty of this program is in the introductory lesson, you learn an isolated skill, but you're still reviewing all the consonant and vowel sounds you have learned before. And then we go right into a reinforcing lesson that teaches the child to interconnect those skills into text with accuracy. Fluency will build. But again, we all read at different paces depending on our background knowledge. Accuracy is the most important thing. All right. And one thing I just want to show you, when they use that term, the simplicity of reading, it cracks me up. Basically what we've been talking about is in your introductory lesson, we're working on language comprehension. We're working on the phonics. All right. That is the first step. And then in the many strands, the second thing is we're starting to tighten that weave so that the skills are becoming solidified and becoming automatized, and they're easily to access. And that takes work. And you're running an introductory, you're running a reinforcement, you might need to run another reinforcement. And then the ultimate goal is we want this skill to turn into this skill so that we can have a student that is happy with text and picks up a book and reads. That is the ultimate goal. And then just a little bit about, we do sound dictation. It sounds familiar to many other programs. I will say the sound. So let's say if we're in a higher level of instruction and we had taught all these different spellings of the sound of I, then the student would have to write down every configuration that they have learned. So I say the sound I, the student repeats the word, the student names the letters, we can trace it on our hand, and then we write it, and then we proofread it. And then we go right into pre-spelling is where we are working on teaching kids how to hear sounds without print. That can be a little hiccupy for some of the students. And then we get right into spelling. And the really cool thing about spelling is, and I'm just going to pull this up here for you, is we still, now we're back into phonemic awareness. So I say the word hat, you say the word hat. The first thing we do is we go, and then you could draw the dashes on the board. I'm right here. I'm just looking right up here. Don't look at the sentence writing right now. And then we, on our hands, we say the names of the letter, H, A, T, and then the student subvocalizes and says the names of the letters as they spell. It's a full cementing of it. The beautiful thing is we dictate sound, we dictate words, and then we dictate a sentence. And I want to show you the really cool thing that we do here. So when you get to your step 10, it's fully scripted, and it will say to you, read a sentence to the student, and we'd like you to model this. So I'm going to say to the student, the fish is in the shed. And then I'm going to go, the fish is in the shed. And now I'm going to say to the students, there's no words here. Let's read this sentence back. The fish is in the shed. Let's not robot read. Let's phrase it together. So there's some, like dance and movement in it. And then the students are going to spell each word on top. And if there's a mistake, we put a bracket around it and we fix it. And then, we ask the students to point out to the concept that we're working on, and we can ask them to circle it. And here I just put my scooping, I'm pointing to my screen, I'm sorry. The fish is in the shed. And I even had a student that said to me, that's the most ridiculous sentence I've ever heard. Why would you put a fish in a shed? I said, I don't know how to tell you this, but back in colonial days, there were no refrigerators, and we used to put fish in a shed and put salt on it. And that's how we kept fish edible through the whole winter. And the kid goes, really? And then he was interested, and we looked stuff up, but the thing is, you can go into higher levels of discussion with lower level phonics skills, because if this is where your student needs to place, give them this skill, but allow them to build their oral language skills. We also have built-in progress monitoring. When you get trained or you go through the curriculum, you will see you're going to be able to decide if Joanne is ready to move on to the next lesson or you need to run another one. And, there's a lot of research that has come and a lot of feedback from schools. Everything that we've been hearing today, confidence and self-esteem, fewer discipline referrals, positive, parental feedback, students moving to less restrictive environments. Anita Archer once said, the best motivator of attempt is immediate success. And that's what we have to get our students to do. I don't care if they're in college, if they're in 10th grade, they're in 7th grade, they're in 2nd grade, they need to be successful. I used to be the learning disability coordinator at Hunter College, and we had very bright students that understood everything orally but could not get through text. So we worked with them a little bit with that, but we still got them text on tape. But the thing is, we want students to feel good about themselves. We want them to understand that they can do it. And the thing is, the key points to remember about a good structured literacy program, such as Spire, such as Sound Sensible, is that it covers all the critical areas of reading. It's a 45 to 60-minute lesson. You could learn how to present it in 1 day or 2 days. It's brain-based learning. It's fun. It has built-in success. It's highly salient. It's highly focusable, because it's 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. So you're always reconnecting your student, but you're building. Sorry, I keep looking at my watch. And Laura, take a look if there's any questions. So I'm just going to pass by this. You will have this. There are different ways that you can look at this. You can get print, you can get iSpire, and then there's something now coming out called Spire Star. They're all wonderful. They all teach the same thing. One thing I just want you to know, if you go to iSpire, it is still a teacher-led program. It's not like you just put the student on it and they get to do a little work and then a report gets printed out. So this is very interactive. So, and again, please take a photograph of this. If you need any information, please get a hold of Teresa Gilstrap. She's absolutely phenomenal, and she will help you with any of your purchasing, training needs, or if you just have extra questions, feel free to email her, or you can call the 800 number. And I will just go back to my slide for a second. And Laura, I just want to ask you a question. Are there any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica, are there any questions?
That's okay. What is the pricing?
You know what? That's a really good point. And I'm not trying to be a Weisenheimer. I don't know that answer, but it is absolutely affordable. If you want, please email Teresa. Are you online? Okay, I thought she was going to be online.
No, I'm online.
Oh, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, well, Spire comes in kits, and it comes in sets, so it depends if you're looking for Sound Sensible or if you're looking for Spire itself. But the minimal cost of a set is currently, sorry, because I know that it's in New York, it's $214.
And that provides material for what, 6 kids, Teresa?
Right, so small group teaching.
Right.
And you can teach up to 6 kids with the set. So you can start with $214 as a basic cost and build from there.
It's very affordable. It's very doable. And I'm telling you, it works. The growth we have seen, I've been training the IEP educators in the New York City Board of Ed for over 5 years. This year I'm now out because of the pandemic, but we're still doing the amazing work. The first year we trained them in research-based reading. This case, we happened to use Spire. Then the second year, I trained them in Dibbles Next, which is now Acadians. And then the third year, we started training them on data-based individuation, how to look at your data and your progress monitoring to adapt and tweak your instruction. Are there any other questions, Jessica?
Yes, there's one about, do digital games come with the Spire book?
Teresa, would you mind answering that?
Sorry, do digital games? Is that what the question is?
Yes.
Digital games. Are you referring to our online digital program where you can actually do the assessments and progress monitoring?
I believe so, yes.
That's all with our digital program, iSpire, that's all online. And that's the beauty of it. So when you're assessing your students, all that data is kept online. In the print book, it's, of course, print assessments.
Oh, it says she was referring to the games that were played today online in the presentation. Are those included?
Oh, those were not games. I just made manipulatives for you to see, though, but you would have those tangible skills in your materials. I made that for demonstration to show you on my PowerPoint.
Great.
And if you want, just email me. I'll send you the working template.
Perfect.
I mean it.
Is this effective for ADHD students?
If they have a comorbidity of a language delay, but if it's just really just pure ADHD, then your students usually don't have phonological processing issues. So are you talking the comorbidity?
They do.
Yeah. Yeah, it should. And again, the really one nice thing about kids that tend to be, a little hyperactive or a lot hyperactive, I know this is going to sound funny, but the 5 minute, 1 minute, the first step is 5 minutes. Bam, you do it, it's over. Bam, you do it, it's over. There's not a lot of downtime. There's not a lot of, oh my God, this is going on forever. You're moving them, you're moving them, you're moving them. And I'm going to promise you in the beginning, you're going to be slow with your pacing because you're going to learn your craft. So just be really kind and gentle with yourself, learn your craft, get more fluid with it, with your pacing. And it has been extremely beneficial for kids that have the comorbidity of language issues and some attention issues. And if they're hyperactive, give them a bouncing ball to sit on. With a ring underneath it so they don't roll all over the house.
Are there any other questions? Right now, I don't see any in the chat. So if there are no more, we will conclude our presentation.
So guys, seriously, what I'm just saying, I will never get a hold of you. I don't know who you are, but if you want to get a hold of me, and please don't laugh, it's AOL. I do have a Gmail, but I like my AOL. And there's my phone number. I would prefer you call because I can't keep up with the emails.